What's up, cool people? My name's Matt, aka That Random Christian Gamer, and welcome to tonight's live stream. A couple of things to let y'all know about before we get rolling into this. I have temporarily, like just for this week, I'm thinking, I have disabled the exercise-related channel point redemptions just for this week, only because I freaking pulled a muscle on Sunday and just still kind of recovering from that. I mean, it's like most of the way better, but I don't want to push it, especially because it's a leg muscle and my job involves a lot of standing and walking around. If I mess up my leg too bad, I can't really work. So yeah, no exercising in this stream or probably tomorrow's either. Hopefully by next week I'll be all better and then we can bring back the exercises. Also, another little update. You may have noticed there's already a little bit of a glow. That's not coming from any lighting behind me. That's actually my old lights I now have like up in front of me here to get a little more white light on my face. Or I mean, that's white light. The ring light that I usually use on my face is a bit off-white. Daylight, I think is what it's called. However, I have new backlights. Hooray! That is very much making the webcam want to turn me green, though. I don't like that. Feel free to suggest a color change to that, but I figured I'd get it back close to what it was before I changed light setups. Okay. Bumping up the face light is a little bit better. Apologies for not really testing this out before. That's too bright. Okay. I guess this is what I'm going with. And also, if we really want, the lights behind me can do like all sorts of different colors. I mean, there's not much that's easily accessible on this remote as far as color options. However, there's an app that I can use to control the lights that literally gives it like technically 1,000+ light color options. So yeah, that's a thing. Paid all of like, I don't know, $30 for them online and got them shipped in sometime about a week ago. But anyway, okay, that's it for updates. You should pretty much know the drill on what's coming up. If you don't, we're kicking it off with Bible study, continuing the book of Job with chapters 13 and 14. And after that's done, which should be about an hour, then I'll be hopping into some gaming stuff and we could just hang out, chill, chat while I play a game, in this case, Gems of War. Because I have heard from a guildmate in the game that there should be a new mythic troop tomorrow. If that does not happen now, I will be a bit disappointed, but oh well. I'd rather be prepared and have it not happen than the other way around. In any case, that's what's coming up. I'm going to go ahead and run the early set of ads on Twitch, and then we can hop into our Bible study. Also, hi, Seth. Was not ignoring you. Just had a lot that I wanted to say before getting into that. Anywho. Okay. At least you won't get surprised this time by a... Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's... Again, the lack of exercise stuff is not just because, I don't want to be surprised by it or anything along those lines, or even that I entirely dislike doing the exercise. It's just, yeah. This week's a bad week for it. And so long story short, what happened was my calf muscle was feeling a little tight for a couple of days. I don't know why, but it was, and it didn't really go away. And then on Sunday, I was simply trying to go down a set of steps, and the third step down, I land on my left leg, and the calf muscle just feels like it pops. And yeah, it hurt. But it's mostly better now. But only mostly better, so I'm still not trying to push it with the exercise stuff. Especially don't want to end up rolling some exercise like burpees or whatever with a slightly injured calf muscle. Okay. I'm gonna get the background music toned down just a little bit more. Right now it's quiet just because it's on a quiet song. Don't want that to get loud while I'm doing the Bible study, though. Okay. Speaking of which, let's hop right in. Okay. Job chapter 13. Sort of general summary so far. Job was a good man, lived a good life, lived righteously. God decides to point this out to a dude called Satan, or the adversary, who kind of wants to challenge Job by at first taking away his stuff, and then also kind of inflicting him with something physical. Just to see if, Job's faith falters or whatever. So all that stuff happens, and then, some friends come to, just be there with him while he mourns. Job cries out to God, says some things kind of emotionally. His friends don't really like some of the stuff that he's saying, and there's been just, ever since chapter 3, it's pretty much been a back and forth between Job and his friends, sort of. So far, the three friends have just kind of been going, taking turns. Job, friend, Job, other friend, Job, third friend, and back to Job. They are talking all like he must have done something wrong, whether or not they're saying it outright. But Job continues to say that he's innocent, and a bunch of other stuff. So, I'm not going to get into too much more detail because that'll take a while. Let's get into Job chapter 13 here with more of what Job is saying. Look, I have seen all this with my own eyes and heard it with my own ears, and now I understand. I know as much as you do. You are no better than I am. As for me, I would speak directly to the Almighty. I want to argue my case with God himself. As for you, you smear me with lies. As physicians, you are worthless quacks. If only you could be silent. That's the wisest thing you could do. Listen to my charge. Pay attention to my arguments. Okay, I'm looking at the length of the chapter. It's not terrible. I'll pause here for a bit. So, since Job knows that he's innocent, and I mean, we know that he's innocent, and he only had all this bad stuff happen to him as a test of faith. The fact that his friends keep insisting that he has done something wrong and that he's being punished. His most recent friend actually insisted that Job was being punished less severely than he deserves, which is kind of crazy considering Job basically lost almost everything he had except for, I think, his wife and maybe a handful of servants. But that includes a bunch of other servants, his kids, livestock, all sorts of property. Yeah. Tons of loss there. He's also got terrible boils all over his body. He's also, by his own admission later on in the conversation, he's been dealing with nightmares, essentially, that keep him up at night, and other disturbing thoughts and visions that, so he's not only been, afflicted economically, relationally, physically, it's also mental, and, yeah, he's basically having a hard time in every possible way. So to say that Job deserves a harsher punishment than that is, wow. It was a bold statement from Zophar. So anyway, in light of his friends continuing to make so many bold assumptions about Job's situation, and B, because they keep repeating stuff about God that he really already knows, like, God is just. He does not twist justice. That God knows more than us and is more powerful than us. And things of that sort. That is why Job here is saying that clearly he knows as much as his friends and they're no better than him. Because so far, that's what they've demonstrated with their words. Everything that they've said, he already knows. Especially in terms of, God, his characteristics, the things that he has done and can do, and ways that sinful people get punished. So, yeah, they're not telling him anything new. So, in light of that, Job is telling them, well, if this is all you got, this is nothing new, so really, you're probably better off just not saying anything. If anything, your words are making things worse on me. They're not helpful. Because, now on top of all the stuff he's already had to deal with, he has so-called friends who are willing to accuse him of significant sin just because of their preconceived notions of how God works. Anyway, on to verse 7. Are you defending God with lies? Do you make your dishonest arguments for his sake? Will you slant your testimony in his favor? Will you argue God's case for him? What will happen when he finds out what you are doing? Can you fool him as easily as you fool people? No, you will be in trouble with him No, you You will be in trouble with him if you secretly slant your testimony in his favor. Doesn't his majesty terrify you? Doesn't your fear of him overwhelm you? Your platitudes are as valuable as ashes. Your defense is as fragile as a clay pot. So now Job's actually like turning it around on them and saying, look, y'all think I'm bad? What you're doing with all of your assumptions is essentially you're like very poorly defending God. And if God were to really look at you and your hearts, your motives, your attitudes, you would be in just as bad a situation, you know, you all would be just as much under his judgment as you assume that I am. Like, they may say things that sound smart and could fool some people, but God knows them deeper than any person. So, yeah. Now, I don't know if I would say they're intentionally lying. But they are, like, kind of, they're kind of speaking half-truths in some ways. Some of what they've mentioned already includes things like, you know, good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. Okay, yes, that's generally true, but they aren't including the full picture. Like Job has already countered by saying, wicked people prosper sometimes too. And if God is really sovereign over all of it, then, like, his judgment isn't as simple as you would make it sound. So, whether or not they're intentionally lying, per se, what they're saying isn't the entire truth. And it seems like it's all in an effort to defend God and or, like, convince Job that he has done something worth all of this and needs to change his ways. Simply, again, because of their sort of framework of God and how he treats people. Anyway, on to verse 13. Be silent now and leave me alone. Let me speak, and I will face the consequences. Why should I put myself in mortal danger and take my life in my own hands? God might kill me, but I have no other hope. I am going to argue my case with him. But this is what will save me. I am not godless. If I were, I could not stand before him. Listen closely to what I am about to say. Hear me out. I have prepared my case. I will be proved innocent. Who can argue with me over this? And if you prove me wrong, I will remain silent and die. All right, well, I don't know if his frustration with his friends has emboldened Job, but he was previously saying that he basically wouldn't dare, you know, face God because he was... Because A, he figured it would be pointless, and B, that since God clearly intends to, you know, punish him or at least, like, bring bad things upon him, he knows he's not really going to be able to just change God's mind. At least that's what he said before. Now it seems like he's kind of thinking, all right, you know what? he's not saying it like this, but it seems almost like he's thinking, you know what? I would rather try to argue my case against God than to continue dealing with you fools and your ridiculous assumptions and half-baked theology. So he's it sounds like he's willing to take his chances against God were he to be able were he able to plead his case actually directly to God. But maybe we should take a look at these notes in here and see if that changes any of the wording a bit and how that might come across. So in verse 14 here, the Hebrew says, "Why should I take my flesh in my teeth?" Okay. Yeah, that's definitely more of just like a saying, I guess, that I'm not going to say for sure, but I would not be surprised if it means something like what the translators put here. Why should I put myself in mortal danger? Because, I mean, in a way, I guess that's what you would be doing if you... you know what? I'm not going to dwell on that too much. Now, verse 15 here. An alternate reading in the Masoretic text reads, "God might kill me, but I hope in him." Okay, you see, that wording makes it clear that Job's saying he still has hope in God. Meanwhile, this wording, like, you might think that he's referring to, you know, speaking with God as his only hope. But, I mean, obviously both can be true simultaneously, kind of. Because God is his only hope, speaking with God is perhaps the only chance that he has, probably the only one he thinks that he has, of, you know, getting any sort of different situation. And it seems like right at the end of this section here, he's also kind of like daring his friends to challenge his innocence. Maybe not even just his friends, anybody who would try. Okay. On to verse 20. "Oh God, grant me these two things, and then I will be able to face you. Remove your heavy hand from me, and don't terrify me with your awesome presence. Now summon me, and I will answer. Or let me speak to you, and you reply. Tell me, what have I done wrong? Show me my rebellion and my sin. Why do you turn away from me? Why do you treat me as your enemy? Would you terrify a leaf blown by the wind? Would you chase dry straw? You write bitter accusations against me and bring up all the sins of my youth. You put my feet in stocks. You examine all my paths. You trace all my footprints. I waste away like rotting wood, like a moth-eaten coat." Now, I will say this right away. Job does continue speaking in the next chapter, and it's not even a different subsection heading thing. And, this, I don't think, is really anything new. What Job has said here, I think he's pretty much said all of it before. Wishing that, you know, God wouldn't be so heavy-handed with him. Then maybe he can, you know, gather some strength to speak. Now, the second thing he wants granted, I guess maybe is the part where he's saying, "Don't terrify me with your awesome presence." Because, I mean, like, nobody has fully seen God. And I believe the thinking is, at least, that... and this probably goes back to an interaction between God and Moses on Mount Sinai. The idea that were anyone to actually fully look upon God, any human especially, fully look upon God, his glory and majesty would simply overwhelm them and they would die on the spot. So, Job's like, all right, first, can you lay off me a little bit? Second, I want to speak to you, but, like, don't come and show yourself to me directly. I don't want to die. I just want to talk. And then he asks, as he has before, what he has done wrong. And then just kind of, recalls the bitterness of his situation, how downtrodden / desperate / probably at the moment even quite frail that he is, and oh yeah, in between asking what he did wrong in that part, he kind of asks, in a way, this comes across to me as him asking God, like, why are you so far from me now? It seemed like we were real close. Like, a lot of good stuff was happening in my life, and, I was worshiping you, giving you praise and offerings, and living righteously. So, why is all this happening, and why am I not hearing from you right now? So, that, I think in some ways that is an experience of quite a number of people at some point in their life, quite a number of believers at some point in life, that they feel far from God. And, it kind of hits different people in different ways, too. Usually, that feeling is, or part of that feeling, crossing someone's mind is, some sort of hardship. But, Job, if that's a common trigger for feeling distant from God, I think Job has plenty of reason to feel distant. Or at least it's very understandable why he would. But yeah. So once again, Job asks what he's done wrong, and also for an audience with God, essentially, to plead his case. And we'll see what else he says in the next chapter, I suppose. It may even very well kind of continue along this same train of thought about just how bitter his life is right now. But we'll see in the next chapter, I guess. I don't really have too many other thoughts on this one, so we'll leave it at that. And then pretty much continue very shortly with the next chapter. I would like a sip of water first, though. A swig, if you will. Okay. And back to recording, I guess. All right, we're at Job chapter 14. So, general gist on Job's situation. Things were really good. He was a really good man. God pointed it out to Satan. Satan wants to test him. Job gets tested because God says fine. So Job loses pretty much everything that he has. Also gets boils all over him. He has also apparently been afflicted with like nightmares or disturbing visions. And he's had some friends who at first came just to kind of be there with him while he mourned and kind of help comfort him. I'm pretty sure that was their initial idea. But then Job cries out to God in his distress. And his friends don't really like some of the things that he says. So they try to argue theology with him and, like, insist that he's done something wrong and that God is punishing him because that's pretty much all they know. That, like, is their framework of how God works. But Job maintains his innocence. And last chapter said that he doesn't believe they're any better than him. They haven't told him anything he doesn't already know. So now he just wants to plead his case with God. And while he's kind of in the midst of, well, first off, asking what he did wrong, but then also, like, kind of decrying all of the things God has apparently placed upon him, just the massive loss, burden, suffering, and all of that he's experiencing. In the midst of that is where we pick up chapter 14. So this is still Job speaking, possibly in that same train of thought. So, without further ado, here we go. Job chapter 14. How frail is humanity? How short is life? How full of trouble? We blossom like a flower and then wither. Like a passing shadow, we quickly disappear. Must you keep an eye on such a frail creature and demand an accounting from me? Who can bring purity out of an impure person? No one. You have decided the length of our lives. You know how many months we will live, and we are not given a minute longer. So leave us alone and let us rest. We are like hired hands, so let us finish our work in peace. The use of collective pronouns there is interesting. But I guess just because the stuff he was saying before was also, like, broadly about God and how he relates to people in general, deciding the length of their lives. And again, this is kind of along, similar thoughts to what we've heard from Job before. Talking about how frail and even brief each human life is in the broad scope of eternity. And kind of wondering, like, given that, why would God, like, be so strict or harsh on one tiny little insignificant life? And again, because Job has been so lacking in peace because of all the stuff he's been dealing with, he also kind of just wants God to back off and let him be, and then maybe he'll have some peace. And if God really does have a purpose for him still, wouldn't it make more sense for God to just let him do the thing, whatever it is? Of course, that assumes the purpose God has for him is something beyond serving as an example of, why it's bad to assume that only bad people get punished, or that only bad people have bad things happen to them and only good people have good things happen, as his friends have kind of alluded to. But yeah, still, Job understandably wants to be done with all this suffering that he has had to deal with for at least a week now. Because it said back in chapter 2, I think, when his friends initially came and sat with him, that they did so for a week before all this conversation happened. Anyway. Okay. Moving on to verse 7. Even a tree has more hope. If it is cut down, it will sprout again and grow new branches. Though its roots have grown old in the earth and its stump decays, at the scent of water it will bud and sprout again like a new seedling. But when people die, their strength is gone. They breathe their last, and then where are they? As water evaporates from a lake and a river disappears in drought, people are laid to rest and do not rise again. Until the heavens are no more, they will not wake up, nor be roused from their sleep. I will pause there. So, further emphasizing the point of how frail human life is, Job compares people to trees. He's like, hey, when trees are cut down and all of their, whatever it is that they produce is gone, as long as there's still that stump there and access to water, they will grow again. But with people, if you cut them down, figuratively, which I guess he was using as an allegory for apparently killing something, to when people die, like a tree seems to when you cut it down, the people don't grow back, though. So, again, like, why would you punish someone so severely, God? Also, maybe just a little bit of, like, I don't want to call this eschatology in here, but, it's, afterlife-related thoughts, or it's still, it definitely sounds like it hints a bit almost at an idea of, like, God making heaven and earth different at some point. Which is not something you hear too much of in the Old Testament. New Testament, yes. But, yeah. Frail human life. You live, you die, that's it. Okay, verse 13, and I may just read all the way through to the end of the chapter, but here goes. I wish you would hide me in the grave and forget me there until your anger has passed. But mark your calendar to think of me again. Can the dead live again? If so, this would give me hope through all my years of struggle, and I would eagerly await the release of death. You would call and I would answer, and you would yearn for me, your handiwork. For then you would guard my steps instead of watching for my sins. My sins would be sealed in a pouch, and you would cover my guilt. But instead, as mountains fall and crumble and rocks fall from a cliff, as water wears away the stones and floods wash away the soil, so you destroy people's hope. You always overpower them, and they pass from the scene. You disfigure them in death and send them away. They never know if their children grow up in honor or sink to insignificance. They suffer painfully. Their life is full of trouble. So, there's a note there at the whole hide me in the grave thing. Sorry. So, yeah, the Hebrew there says in Sheol rather than in the grave. Maybe the grave is a decent simile, though. Because Sheol was just, mostly thought of as pit in the ground, and that's where your afterlife was. Real quick, hey, what's up, cool people? Coming in on the raid. Those of you who don't know, my name is Matt, aka That Random Christian Gamer. I know this is a little long and drawn out, but I consider myself a random Christian guy connected with random people, and there was more to that. I'm a little out of practice on my introductory bit, but we're looking through some Bible studies, so if you got any random questions about, the Bible, faith, God, any of that kind of stuff, this is a good time to do so. Matthew, URG. I don't know if that's supposed to be pronounced individual letters like that, but hey, a fellow Matt. Nice to see ya. So we are currently in the book of Job, which is an interesting one to read through and discuss. A lot of conversation that's kind of tough because it deals with why there's suffering in the world and things of that sort in particular. Appreciate the follow there. I guess I'll just call you Matthew for short if that's all right. Feel free to tell me if that's not and you want me to go with the full username. I just feel like Matthew's a better abbreviation than URG. I don't know. So, yeah. Job is here kind of crying out to God, after much suffering on his part, saying that, he kind of would rather be dead, but also, he fears dying to this, whatever is going on, because, people aren't just reborn. that It doesn't just happen. Bringing some New Testament into this, like, Jesus is the only person to ever die and then come back himself. He did also bring Lazarus back from the dead, but, like, Jesus was the only one to do it himself. So, like, Job is thinking, I'd kind of rather be dead, but at the same time, I don't want to die and, like, lose any and all possibility of, you know, things being different from what I'm experiencing now. I want there to be a chance of some kind of redemption or turnaround in this. Sorry, real quick. Looking at chat. Companies going with cold remedies, so I have to get ready. Okay. Yes, by all means. Gotta attend to, or gotta let people in that are expecting, that you're expecting to arrive. Anyway. Appreciate the raid. And follows and all that kind of stuff. Again, interesting conversation to join in on, but you know, the Bible gets into some complex stuff like this sometimes. So yeah, Job on that line of thinking of, like, he asks, can the dead live again? Because to his knowledge, they can't. If that were the case, he'd be thinking, all right, well, you know what? Then, shoot, let this life pass away, this troubled life I'm currently living. And then, you know, we could do this all over again. Or we could start things over, is probably a better way to say that. And, you know, not only that, but, you know, he could possibly be with God, you know, more directly after he dies. And then, you know, maybe if and when things would start all over again, it would probably, or at least more likely, go back to how it was before, when, you know, Job mentioned in a previous chapter that up until this point in his life, things were great. It seemed like, you know, God was right there in lockstep, so to speak, with Job and whatever he was doing. And maybe things could get back to that if Job were able to just, you know, start a new life. But as it is, he doesn't necessarily want to die because he doesn't think he'd be able to, you know, live a whole nother life. And instead, you know, he ponders further on just all the trouble that he's facing, general trouble that happens in life, and how things decay, and all of it seems to just kind of wear out eventually. And then when people die, they really don't know how things are from there. I mean, at least that's his thinking, possibly the broader kind of thinking of the time. People nowadays, at least, seem to think that, you know, when we die, especially if we are, you know, if we are redeemed by Jesus and, you know, living with God for eternity, that maybe we would perhaps know what happens with our children after we die. Although, is it really the same thing? Because once we die, these mortal human bodies, we're not like still inhabiting these bodies anymore. So do we, like, in a way, are we really the same people? I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation for another time, I suppose. But yeah, as it is, at least to Job's understanding, people live. Generally, they go through some sort of hardship, at least at some point in life. And then they die, and they don't even know what becomes of their efforts after they die. And I don't really have any other thoughts related to this chapter in particular. I know I haven't necessarily said a ton, but also, like, not a whole lot of this is new from what has been said previously in the book of Job. So I don't want to feel like I'm continuing to hit the same points the same ways. And yeah, so I suppose I'll leave my thoughts at chapter 14 there. Lucis, hey, nice to see ya. And so for those of you who don't know, at least these streams that I do Thursday nights, I typically do 2 chapters of Bible study. I'm just going start to finish. And Job, I imagine you meant to say curse the day he was born. Yes, that happened a while back. That might have even been back in chapter 3. But yeah, so again, kind of even at that point, he was in a way saying he would rather be dead, or certainly that he wished he hadn't been born and had to go through all the trouble that he did. I also can't help but want, like, the bulk of his trouble has really just been, like, it was maybe a week. It was at least a week, maybe a little bit more, between when he lost everything that he had and was afflicted with boils and, like, all this conversation that we get in, like, the rest of the book of Job. I can't believe it. Maybe that's why February 29th. Well, because theory being February 29th was the day that he was born, so most of the years don't have it. Because he then cursed the day he was born. Anyway, I might be talking in circles now. But I don't know. Personally, I'm almost finding it more interesting. I mean, yet there's sort of a bit of poetry in some ways to a lot of what Job says. I also find it kind of interesting breaking down some of the theology, for lack of a better way to put it, in some of what Job's friends have said so far. And it's like, kind of looking at it, you know, and what's true about it, what's maybe not so true about it, and things like that. Because that's really kind of the big discussion going on, is like how his friends view the way God interacts with people versus Job's understanding of his own individual situation and how it's different from what his friends seem to assume. At least so far, that's been kind of the big theme. But anyway, I was talking about my streams and how I do those. So I actually started with Job chapter 13. This was the second chapter of Bible study for the night. So that is all that I had planned as far as Bible study is concerned. Here in a little bit, I'll be switching over to just playing a video game, and we can hang out, chat, talk about whatever, and I'll just be playing a game in the meantime. There's nothing really significant about that other than something for me to at least sort of fill the space with when discussion maybe isn't so active. And also maybe give me a chance to rest my throat, because I tend to get quite animated, for lack of a better word. I don't know. I get really into the Bible study discussion sometimes, and I am prone to making my throat a little bit sore from that. So then if I can play a game and not talk quite as much, then that is helpful for me. Anywho, I am done with the planned Bible study, is what I was getting at with all that. And I think before I transition into the game I'm going to play, which, by the way, I'm about to play a game called Gems of War. It's a regular of mine. It's just a simple match 3 kind of game for the most part. It's just, again, it's a regular game that I play like all the time. I lead a guild in the flippin' game. And supposedly there's like a new major character, troop, party member, whatever you want to call it, thing available tomorrow. So I'm trying to build up some of the resources that would help me acquire said new character, troop, party member thing. But yeah. Again, aside from that, it'll just be an hour of kind of hanging out and talking about whatever. I did note early on, normally I have channel point redemptions for people to like have me do exercise and stuff. I have disabled that for this stream because I am still sort of recovering from pulling my calf muscle earlier this week. Don't want to strain legs and stuff, especially because the way the exercise redemptions work, it's kind of randomized from a list of potential exercises. So, yeah. That's not really gonna happen so much today. But feel free to make requests for changing light colors and things like that. Anyway, yeah, honestly, my leg is mostly feeling better already. It's just, since it's so close to feeling back to normal, I don't want to, like, screw that up right now. Anyway, well, whether y'all mind or not, some ads are scheduled to run here in a little bit on Twitch. I think I'm just going to go ahead, head that off, run them now while I transition over to the game. And then I can catch it all while I'm playing that. Not even sure exactly what I'm going to do in the game, but it's all pretty similar anyway. Maybe we can discuss that after the ad break. See y'all in a bit, Twitch folks. that is assuming everyone is part of the ad break. That might not be the case. People who rated in might have gotten pre-roll stuff and would not end up getting more ads during this. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how this works because, like, nobody says what they're doing and also watches it as a viewer at the same time, I think. Anywho, okay, enough rambling on about that. Time to, come on now. Something just happened with one of my lights. That's, like, right around my face here. Hang on. Okay, there we go. Those are back to normal. It's weird, the situation with my lights. They do some things with my TV remote, but the remote that was actually supposed to control them stopped working. Anyway, okay. Ditching my own background music because game has music of its own. In fact, I might want to tone down the game volume some. Because I had it set like I would for one of the quieter games I play. Okie day. Seems like ads should be done. So, for those of you who do not know, this is kind of your home screen, so to speak, of Gems of War. Again, it's a match 3 game. It just has a lot of ever so slightly different modes. Typically what I end up doing when I stream this game is this thing called the Underspire, where you kind of like pick a path through a dungeon kind of situation. You don't really know for sure where you're going until you beat a room and reveal the path after it. So really it's more so like the context that it puts the gameplay in that changes depending on which part of the game you get into. But really, the main thing that I am actually trying to accomplish when I, stream the game and say I'm collecting resources and stuff is this particular thing, these, like, guild seals and whatnot. Now, it looks like the guild as a whole has already earned enough to max out the chance of getting a mythic troop from the guild chests here. And because there is, like, there is technically other stuff you could get from the guild chests, but there's really no better time to use them than when a new mythic troop comes around. Getting more of those seals is kind of like the main goal of, weeks that a new mythic troop drops in particular. I mean, having them in general is good, but yeah. Especially using them up then. Because otherwise, like, some of these other kinds of chests could also give you the mythic troop, but they're a bit more limited. I don't know if that's the best way to put them, but they sort of have set chances for a mythic troop. The guild chests are the only one that kind of change with how much your guild gets in the week. Anyway, so I suppose I could actually look at this list of things that earn guild seals, and we could choose something from there to do. Although, realistically, pretty much anything you do in the game will give you at least some guild seals. For a second, I thought maybe it would be worth, or fun at least, to do the arena, but it doesn't seem like that would give me anything special as far as guild seals. Then again, neither does the Underspire. Realistically, PvP battles would probably give me the most of those. I haven't necessarily done that a whole lot in a live stream, so I don't know, it could be interesting to look into. So here's the PvP section of things. Now, the places that have the extra little, like, lantern type symbol next to the area should also give you, like, a bonus after you do 5 battles there. And there's also, if you're so inclined, these, like, monolith kind of things or whatever in each area that then sort of gives your team a boost after you've cleared however many battles at that monolith. But of course, you're limited on how many of those battles you could do. Honestly, I think I'm just gonna quick battle some stuff and see what happens. I need to make a team. Fits the category. What is this? Oh, this is just green troops in general. Okay, well. Got to go eat. Alright. Appreciate you hanging around, Lucis. And blessings to you as well. Ready to roll anything that we need to. Yeah, need is a strong word for this, and honestly, there are so many possibilities that I fear it would take a long time to roll for a team. What am I doing here? Okay, well, sort them by base rarity as normal. There's also Underspire and Delves. Yeah. Honestly, that is kind of a better thing to default to for live stream purposes, I would think. Delves do earn some extra guild seals. So, geez, how many of these did we establish there were? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, 18, 19, 20. 22, 23. Looks like 38 to me. Okay. Well, 22 has been rolled. Should be 83. There are definitely not 83 different locations here. Well, okay. I mean, if you just flip the numbers around, understandable. Okay, hold up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna call that 5, 6, 7. Because I think the Court of Foxes is up just slightly higher than the Werewoods. Sure, we could do Werewoods. Looks like I have a lot of progress to potentially make here. I am not going to randomize the team, though. Especially because the best thing to do in any of these places is to just use the team from that area. It like, gets you the most relevant stuff for that anyway. I just forget what's the preferred order for all these troops. Split 15 red gems. I think I'm gonna go like this. I don't know if that's the ideal order, but I don't care, and I don't have a whole lot of time to spend on this. Because we've got like an hour. Not even anymore. Werewoods. There's the Werewoods banner. Okay. The rest does not matter. I suppose we can, you know, randomize path choices. But I think we'll keep it simple and leave it at that. Just randomize which faction we're delving into / with, and then maybe which path we take within the delve. $65 damage to an enemy. Okay, whatever. Goodbye. To the enemy. Not to you. See, now, part of what's a little bit unusual about this specific faction is that, like, anytime you use the spells of the troops, there's a chance of them transforming. That was not a great move, because I had a skull match right there. Anyway. Now, I think even if your troops transform, it still counts as, you know, clearing the delve without any casualties. But that is, like, there are specific delve requirements that earn, like, faction rewards and whatnot. And if you can meet those requirements, then you get more points toward, like, leveling up the faction or something. Oh. Gain 10% attack at the start of battle. Also, death mark a random ally. No, thanks. I don't want to lose a random ally to death mark. Not that it's guaranteed, but still, there's a chance and I don't like it. So, we have upper path or lower path here. I didn't have my stuff ready to roll because I figured, especially with the lack of exercise redemptions, that it maybe wouldn't be needed so much. But I can grab them if you give me a couple seconds. Beep. Okay. Rolling 1d6. I got a 5. So, based on, you know, normal stuff, that would mean upper path here. But I am realizing now it's only completing a delve that gives you, like, extra guild seals. So, like, each individual battle in here only gets me the normal amount for any battle. Which I think is, like, 2 seals. But then once the delve is completed, I guess, I want to say it gives an extra 30 guild seals. Oh yeah, and in case you didn't see it, my second troop transformed into Beastmaster Torbjorn. In fact, I think the other 3 that I chose all have a chance to transform into Torbjorn. And then Torbjorn has a chance to transform into any of the others. Right. Blue to red and brown to skulls is what that does. I mean, that would give me an extra turn, at least. Alright, well, now I've got 2 birds, I think. Whatever they're technically called. Okay. Once again. Up or down. Roll to 3. I don't know how easy to see that. I don't know how easy it is to see that for you because of smaller webcam window relative to the overall live stream. Okay, but my throat is telling me I really need to stop talking so much, so I'm gonna try and work on that. None of these enemies are particularly... I don't know. None of them really stand out as significantly more or less of a threat than any of the others. Although that spell can be annoying. Okay. Oh my gosh, what the heck? I keep hearing my phone buzz. Might need to check the notifications on there to make sure I'm not missing anything important. I don't think I am. I don't know what I really would be missing that would be particularly important right now, especially from just like text messages, if it's even that. It could just be random notifications for all sorts of different apps on my phone. You know what? Yeah, that's an extra turn there. Oh. Transformed into the one I didn't even start with on my team. And that's level 1. That's a bit annoying. Fortunately, I don't think it'll be too much of an issue at the current delve level. Okay. Still doing the upper path as odds and lower path as even. Okay. We got a 4. So that means lower path now. Okay. Some of the text messages are not immediately important, but definitely important for me to eventually see.
Mana surge.
You know. Long story short, got a couple of text messages from my dad about Mother's Day related stuff, and I will give no more detail than that. But yeah, I think the fact that this delve, for the most part, has been more of a 50-50 kind of situation makes it easier to, you know, make a good amount of progress on one path or the other without doing a ton of back and forth. Whereas if they all had multiple branches and stuff, then it would be a whole lot easier to just get off on some tangent somewhere. Okay. Once again. Okay, it is a 5. That is an odd number. Therefore, this path. And I think after this, there will technically be 3 options. At that point, as usual, I will consider them in reading order. But, yeah, so I guess I should ask, how's everybody doing? And is there anything in particular y'all might want to talk about? Whatever it might be. Could be Bible related, could be current events related, could be whatever. As long as we understand that we're attempting to be respectful in any conversations that we have. I don't see too much that is really fully off the table for discussion. I mean, if something's like super duper private, might not get into that, but nah. Yeah. But also, there's not a whole lot that I necessarily keep super private. Okay, so 3 stars is 1, 6 stars and End of Delve I'm considering number 2, 5 stars down there is number 3, and then repeat for 4, 5, and 6. As I almost friggin' drop my dice tower. And I have rolled a 4. So, 3-star room. Oh, hey, at least that gives my allies something useful. Kind of useful, at least. Oh, man. And this is when the early start to my day really starts to settle in. Yeah, that's just... okay. None of the other enemies directly deal damage. So I have no particular reason to specifically target... well, I don't have that reason for specifically targeting any given one of them. I think actually because of that one boosting attack, I will target the middle enemy next. I don't even, like, there's something triggering every turn. At least every turn of mine. You have 2 attack and armor. No, it's not that. Huh. Or maybe it's just something with the delve in particular going on? I don't know. Hunters. No. Huh, yeah. I don't see any really obvious signs of anything active that's... I mean, okay, that showed the Medal of Orpheus, which is something that gives a chance to basically heal from any status ailments at the start of the turn, but there's clearly something else triggering there, too. Okay, so now 1 is 6-star, 2 is 3-star, 3 is 5-star, and another 4. So, end of delve, I guess. All I'm seeing is new turn at the top. Nothing else is really indicating why there's like a sound effect and like a pulsing visual effect. Okay. Let's go with this and get rid of the first enemy. Oh, hey, I have another Torburn. Can't exactly say I wanted that, honestly, but oh well. Wow, I got lucky with that cascade. Good grief. Torburn's spell isn't going to give me an extra turn. I'm not the biggest fan of using it when it's not going to give me an extra turn. But in order for it to give me an extra turn, that would require, you know, matching 4 or more with either blue gems turning into red or brown gems turning to skulls. Yeah. Of course, when I'm exploding red gems with the bottom troop here, I guess that doesn't really help with the whole blue gems to red creating an extra turn kind of idea. But there is that option now. Okay. Victory! And delve complete. Okay, considering I gained 40 Werewood's Renown, I think that's, yeah. So if you look at the faction info here, you can kind of see. Now, it's saying level 80 was my best one with no casualties, which means that them transforming counts as a casualty. I'm sorry, but when the entire idea of the faction is that using their spells triggers a transformation possibility, it's just how are you supposed to complete a delve with no quote-unquote casualties when transformations count as casualties? Anyway, like, shall we randomize another faction here? I wonder if there's a simpler way to see how many factions there are. I mean, I know if I went to here, I would see troops, not even kingdoms. I thought it would show kingdoms there. Okay, well, whatever. $29. Okay. So that was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I'm going to call that 21 and that 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Seems like it to me. Which is fine by me. I kind of like this faction, I think. Whoa. Okay, kingdom. Looking for Stonesong Eyrie. There we go. Or Eyrie. Is that how it's pronounced? I don't know. Now this one. 41 true scatter damage. If there's a storm, do that. Trying to remember what the best arrangement is. I think if I go Harpy, then Queen Sochi, Bladewing, and then Harpy Mage, that should be fine. Although the Mage and Bladewing are probably interchangeable. Anyway, banners. Obviously gonna go for the one that represents this faction. Actually, maybe this is where I could see how many. Nope, okay. Well, the banner says 85, but that's a total between A, all the kingdoms, and B, all the factions, and actually C, just one other thing that, like, for some reason there were some banners that were just straight up, like, in the shop, kind of. All these warband ones. But anyway, okay. Now, something I did just think about that would be a way to potentially shake things up a little bit in some future thing that we do I would not necessarily be opposed to, instead of randomizing the troops entirely as in like which ones we pick for my team, I wouldn't necessarily mind like doing like picking the troops myself, like which ones will be in the team, but then potentially kind of like randomizing the order of them. But that, I guess, will be another time. Okay, all kinds of possibilities right now. Okay, 5 options. And I guess if I roll a 6, I'll just re-roll. And of course, I rolled a 6 first. Okay, number 3. So, looks like we're going straight for the hard one. Air quote hard. Supposedly hardest out of the current options. Yeah, main thing I like about this faction here is this troop, Queen Sochi. Because she deals damage to all enemies and explodes gems, assuming there's a storm, which it does not take much for there to be a storm with this team. In fact, I start off with one, and I think anytime you use the Harpy Mage, it makes a dust storm. So, yeah. Draining mana from the enemies wouldn't really do much for me right now. So I'm just going to match some more gems here. Okay, well, storm. So that then gets a 20% chance to kill. And then, of course, there's more gem explosions from the Harpy Mage, which is, I mean, all the gem explosions are generally helpful for getting mana for your troops. I mean, it can cause other gem matches, potentially, from, you know, whatever falls from the explosions, but also even the explosions themselves, like the gems that surround a given explosion all like count towards mana that your troops gain. You know, assuming your troops match the colors of what is being destroyed by the explosions. Alright, you know what? Maybe I should give all my allies a little bit of life. Not that it mattered. Oh, okay, so now there's a 75% chance of gaining bonus yellow mana. 25% chance of losing one, but this team doesn't even use purple. Sure, I'll take those chances. I'm like, if I get the bad thing, I'm actually no worse off. Okay, once again, 5 options. This could potentially be an extremely short delve. I rolled a 5. So, not that short. course, now I'm realizing I still keep talking, and I'm still not doing my throat any favors. But also, like, it's a live stream. If I don't talk at all, it seems awkward. Almost like, why would I be live streaming if I was planning on not talking? Well, that's the thing. That was not part of the plan per se. Okay, still 5 options. Let's see what we get. This time I rolled a 1. So, top path. And from this point forward, the number of options can only decrease. Like, we'll still have 5 possibilities after this. But then the next roll it would go down to 4. And the roll after that it would go down to 3. And yeah. So on and so forth until the delve is complete. Hey, nice. Although maybe I should have targeted that at King Donkelfar. Oh well. Actually, is he King Donkelfar? No. That's only the, like, dungeon boss version of him. No, there was no storm going on. By the way, in case you didn't notice, the enemy totally matched 4 gems, but did not get an extra turn. That's actually a thing that exists now, because maybe I can show you later, but there's this, like, star map thing. And one of the abilities that you can unlock there essentially is like such and such % chance that opponents don't get an extra turn from their gem matches. Rolled a 2, so this path. Now with 4 options, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to handle rolling for direction in that case. Unless I just consider 5 and 6 as rerolls. Aha. I got rid of the enemy that drains my mana. Yippee. Tell you what, I'm just gonna explode some more gems. Yes, I could have attacked. Don't really care though. Actually, this time I think I'm gonna attack. So then the sandworm or whatever it's called is gone from Xochi's spell. Okay, I suppose I could roll my d20 and just go by 4s. Okay, so I rolled a 14 from that. So 3 cycles around gets it to 12, 13, 14. Looks like we're ending the delve. Okay.
Mana surge. Mana surge. Mana surge.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm like, let me target their troop that could possibly insta-kill with my own chance to insta-kill, because I don't want them doing that to me. And next biggest threat on the enemy team, I would definitely say, is Queen Sochi. Okay, that's just annoying. Oh, and there was no storm going on. Really could do with my Harpy Mage. Getting some full mana, there we go. Okay, that's good. Then I'll do that, and whoa, okay. And then I will gain some life. I also forget sometimes how high the attack power is on these Harpy troops. Okay, well, there is another delve complete. Got 60 renown. Must have done a couple of delves that either had casualties or were not with the faction's team. Either way. Okay. I think we got enough time for one more delve. Might go slightly overboard, but whatever. And I just realized I have had the wrong flipping category on Twitch this whole time that I've been playing Gems of War. I never changed it over from when I was doing the Bible study. Whoopsie. Alright, I could pull up an app that would randomly generate between 1 and 38 if I need. Which, you know, in lieu of a response from Seth, I guess I will do that. So I have set app on my phone to go between 1 and 38. And it chooses 22. You all probably can't see that, especially with like freaking light glare and stuff. Anyway. Okay, so that was 29. 28. 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22. I have kind of already maxed out Renown for Dark Pits, but meh, whatever. I'm not doing this just to get faction Renown. But since I have maxed out the faction Renown, I could just use any kind of team I want for this if I really were so inclined. And with green being an option, I almost kind of want to just go with goblins. Especially since they just straight up give extra turns all the time. In particular, this right here. Well, that's my favorite green team anyway, I would say. Now, what all my, you know what? Actually, real quick, are they all from Zajan? Yep. Okay. Weapon from that kingdom. I'm pretty sure Norbert's Turnip gives an extra turn. So that's probably a decent choice. The only other thing I would think to do is maybe pick a weapon that explodes some gems instead. Like possibly the Rock Stabber. Actually, yeah, that would also be better for the mana synergy. Okay, so probably want to do green. Well, plus green and blue and minus yellow, if that's doable. Like that. That'll work. Who cares if it's not the quote-unquote goblin banner? Okay. So even at Delve level 500, these battles should generally go kind of well because of the team that I'm using. And just the sheer number of extra turns that I'm likely to get. Okay, so let's do Big Boom, Mushroom Mania, and yeah, just continue using those as much as possible. Once I can't use those anymore, or get an extra turn in some other way, then I come in with Goblin Horde. And only after exhausting all of those options would I then come back to the Rock Stabber. Oh, hello, merchant. I mean, the Deeds of Fire wouldn't be terrible, but I'd rather kind of save my gems for other things, maybe, I think. Definitely don't want the gold ring. Yes, I will leave. Okie day. 2 path options here. Number 2. So, again, going by reading order, that sends me over here next. Alright, well, the enemy's got 1 turn. I do not know if they will get another. Because, yeah. Just damage and extra turns. There's just going to be a whole lot of that from me now. Although I will say, these enemies are quite durable. So, yeah, maybe they'll get another turn or two before all's said and done. Except I just got another extra turn there. Maybe I should have looked for a different gem exploding weapon, because now both my weapon from my hero and the spell from Flaming Oni both explode green. I do not see an obvious extra turn move here. So, alright, well, the enemy's got one more turn. I think that makes a grand total of 2. Now, this is the kind of thing that admittedly is super frustrating to fight against. But especially since, like, I'm not playing against a person or anything, even the PvP battles are not actual person against person. It's player versus AI-controlled team that opponent has chosen beforehand. Okay. And I rolled a 2, which, I guess means we're ending another delve. Which is fine by me, because that means I took less time to get more of the guild seals. I totally did not look into changing weapons at all, but I can't. I can't change weapons once a delve has started. I can't change anything about my team once a delve has started. There's something I should maybe do a little more of. Getting extra turns by gem matches. Because even when I don't directly need the mana from it at that moment, there's still other things that could happen, like, you know, attacks could land from the cascade that follows, and all sorts of stuff like that. This move gives me an extra turn. Yeah. So I'm realizing when it comes to this game, like, okay, I have a favorite green team. I would have to change the hero weapon, but otherwise this is my favorite green team. I have a favorite blue team. That being the one that involves, oh, crud. What are all the different troop names? Mistralis is the one. Aquaticus. And then I guess also Gobtruffle here. This guy. I think that's my favorite blue team. A, because they also have some extra turn synergy. B, they also have things that can sort of help protect my team against, like, wide shot attacks. But then also, technically speaking, given Gob Truffle's elemental typing, that blue team ends up being entirely elemental. I also have a favorite brown team that involves a couple of troops that give extra turns. Surprise, surprise. But I don't know if I've figured out a favorite red, purple, or yellow team in this game. Okay, I have literally done all the delves I can do today. So, tell you what, since there's not a whole lot of time left in the stream, I think I might just wrap it up with a treasure hunt. Or two if the first one goes really quickly.
Extra turn. Extra turn.
Because, you know, if I do enough turns in a treasure hunt, that also gives me guild seals. Oh, and then once I'm done with that, I can go back and look at that screen and see how many guild seals I earned just during the stream. Normally, I don't actually specifically go back and look at that. And there's really no particular reason for why I don't. It's just not really something that normally crosses my mind, I guess. Yeah. So far, this has not been an especially great treasure hunt, in my opinion. Not a whole lot of extra turn gaining. There we go. And there we go. Okay. Got a couple of them back to back. And then some not so extra turns, but turns that still didn't, like, use up one from my count. Okay. Oh, man. Yeah. I am nowhere near the number of turns I need to have in order to get guild seals from this. I think a treasure hunt needs at least 60 moves in order to get any guild seals from it. Well, that move didn't go the way I hoped. Wow, I am like already out of moves. Well, until that happens, and then get an extra turn there, and a free move there. And I won't say I'm back in it, but got a little wiggle room. Ah, yes. Thank you for pointing that out.
Extra turn.
Yeah, normally I focus my moves down low when it's not obvious extra turn type stuff because of cascade possibilities. But I'm like, when it's obvious that that one's gonna cascade into something else, maybe Okay. And dang it, I'm 9 moves off from getting those guild seals, I think. You know what? I'll do one more while the odds roll. Or at least start it while the odds roll and then probably finish it afterward. Personally, I think the absolutely ridiculous cascades like that should also result in an extra turn, but oh well. I guess that would be too easy then.
Extra turn.
I think I saw somebody shared a post on Reddit that
Extra turn.
they had one of these treasure hunts with like almost 300 turns taken, which is downright ridiculous. By that point, I think they would have had probably about half the board covered in, you know, the vault-looking things.
Extra turn.
Or safes, I guess, is what you might call them. Which is, like, the highest level thing you can get it to. Or, like, get an individual spot on the board, I mean.
Extra turn.
Okay. Free move there, extra turn there. This is looking a little better than my previous attempt did at this point.
Extra turn. Extra turn.
Honestly, feels like I'm getting just slightly better luck with some of these moves and the cascades from them. I don't know. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of move options right now. That could be a slight problem. Well, if I don't gain it, well, never mind.
Extra
I was at that point. I was about to say like, well, if I don't gain a single other extra turn, this attempt could still end up with fewer total moves than the previous one, but I think it's guaranteed to have more by this point.
Extra turn.
Yeah. Guaranteed at least 58 now. And I think that right there on its own sets it over 60.
Extra turn.
Alright, so now I'm not gonna think too much about my moves. I'm just gonna do stuff and
Extra turn.
see what happens, and even if I don't make the most effective move, whatever, I know I'm getting some guild seals from this. Not intentionally trying to make terrible moves per se, and definitely not trying to avoid the good ones, but also not like carefully plotting out every move I make at this point. Hey, I made a safe.
Extra turn. Extra turn. Extra turn.
Yeah, at this point, I'm, like, not even thinking about the moves I'm making anymore. It's just like,
Extra turn.
oh, hey, do I see an extra turn or something like that? Okay. If not, well, then I'm doing something down low. And just seeing what happens.
Extra turn.
And now this one's gonna be over 100 moves.
Extra turn. Extra
With a possibility of still going for
turn.
a little while here.
Extra turn.
See, now, if my first treasure hunt that I did a little while ago had gone like this one, I wouldn't have done a second treasure hunt tonight.
Extra turn. Extra turn. Extra turn.
We're now over 125 moves in this one.
Extra turn.
Jeez,
Extra turn.
at this rate, I'm almost wondering if I'll reach 150.
Extra turn.
Yeah, I'm already kind of close to hitting 150. Doggone it, I could have had a free move there. And that right there, I think, just set it up over 150. Well, it would have been at 150 at that point. Now it's hitting over 150, and geez. Set me up with a couple of extra turn moves in a row there. And possibly the last move. Okay. Well, there we have it. Jeez, did that really take a whole another, like, 10 minutes? Alrighty. Now, let's see how many guild seals I earned tonight from the stream. Okay, so winning any battle is 5 apiece, and we did 16 of those, so that's 80 right there. Plus the treasure hunt puts it at 100, plus the 3 completed delves adds another 90. So I got 190 seals in like a bit over an hour. Probably closer to an hour and a quarter, maybe even an hour and a half. I don't know. I wasn't keeping that close an eye on the time. But yeah, 190 guild seals. I didn't even need to do the math on that. It would have shown me once I redeemed them. Or claimed them. Whatever. Semantics. Okay. Well, that is going to do it for tonight's stream then. And, man, the Twitch viewership really fell off. But I could definitely still fit in a raid. It doesn't really make much difference to me. So, upcoming stream schedule. Tomorrow, early afternoon, I will be continuing Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, focused on the world tour part of that. I might do a couple of other song track things in, the other, like, free play menu kind of thing. But anyway. So, tomorrow, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. A week from today, continuing Bible study in the book of Job. That'll be chapters 15 and 16. And then I'm thinking we're about due for some Power Wash Simulator. It might become a little bit debatable if it turns out that there is not actually an extra troop, a new mythic troop coming in Gems of War tomorrow, because that means then it'll drop next week. But still, not a big fan of doing Gems of War on stream 2 weeks in a row. Maybe that's just me. Of course, if I were streaming full time and had a more lengthy, a fuller streaming schedule, I would probably be doing that every week. But I digress. So, again, leaning towards Power Wash Simulator after the Bible study next week. And then a week from tomorrow, it'll be Borderlands 4 side questing stuff, especially in the Fade Fields area. Especially picking up with the one side mission that I left last week's stream in the middle of. All right, so let me try and be succinct about stuff here now. So tomorrow, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. Next Thursday, Job chapters 15 and 16, followed by probably Power Wash Simulator. A week from tomorrow, Borderlands 4 side missions. And then 2 weeks from today, Job 17 and 18. And then either Hades or Slay the Spire or some other on the side kind of game. Anyway, okay, well, I don't really have too much else to say in terms of my upcoming schedule and all that. I think I'm just gonna... Well, hang on. There was... okay. I was having second thoughts on where I would send my raid to on Twitch, but I think I'm gonna just stick with my initial thought and send that on over to Jate Live. So, yeah, without further ado, I'll get that initiated. So, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope to see you soon for another one. Feel free to check out edited YouTube stuff in between streams. And, yeah. Whatever ends up happening. Till next time. Stay cool, everybody.